Okay then, Tarnished, welcome back to another video. Today we've got the patch notes for 1.04, which they sneakily put in earlier on this morning, and there is so many changes for this, including loads of changes for the latest update, sorceries, incantations, weapon skills, bug fixes. From this one I'm looking at, this is going to mean that mages are going to be even more prevalent than what they actually are now, so I'm really excited to see what they got in this. Now, before we get into it, if you'd be so kind to smash the beautiful blue thumbs up and subscribe, post notifications turned on for all Elden Ring content. And also, if you'd be so kind to check out our new mental range for merch. Hopefully it's underneath the video now, it should be, but if it's not, the link will be down in the description. It's all absolutely awesome and it helps me out loads, so go give it a check out. Right, now the major changes include in the latest update, they've added an option to turn camera auto-rotate functions on and off, which is always really cool, and they've added some event phases for the NPC patches, which again is quite interesting, so it'll be interesting to see what those are. Now, the big balance adjustments, this is probably the biggest one in here right now, because they've changed the usage for colossal swords and colossal weapons, the attack speed, and they've lowered the recovery time of this. They've also increased the two-handed attacks for colossal swords and colossal weapons. Now, none of this includes the jump attacks, which is kind of frustrating, because actually the colossal weapons, the jump attack is probably utilized the most in absolutely every colossal build that's in Elden Ring, so it's a little bit annoying. But they've also increased the physical block rate and guard boost for colossal weapons as well, including halberds and stuff like that. They've increased the damage of Grafted Blade Greatsword and increased the damage of the Devourer's Scepter. They've decreased the scaling of status effect build-up from spells and incantations of Albinauric Staff and Dragon Communion Seal, which is frustrating because the Dragon Communion Seal actually was part of my most recent build for a Dragon Lightning build, which was pretty mental to say the least. But it is what it is all the same. They've also decreased the effect of the Great Shield Talisman for weapons with high block rates. They've shortened the length of the Madness Afflicted animation, which is going to actually cause a bit of a nightmare for PvP, I think, because the Madness moves are actually really overpowered when it comes to the PvP side of things. They've also lowered the speed of Madness and build-up recovery as well, and they've slightly increased FP and stamina growth rate at lower levels. Why it is they've increased it at lower levels, obviously I know the bar's a lot smaller, but I think if you just increase it as an overall, like, surely that's just the best way to change it up, but it is what it is anyway. Now, they do state that players will need to perform any of the following actions for the changes to be reflected, and this is required only once. New characters created after this update will not require this action. Level up, activate Godric's Great Rune, re-equipping any equipment, armor, talisman, which grants bonus stats to either strength, dexterity, vigor, endurance, intelligence, faith, and or arcane, and other enemy and weapon balance changes. So this is going to be a very interesting patch update indeed. We're going to get into the nitty gritties of it. Right now we've got the sorceries and incantations, which look like they have got an absolute shed ton of. So we are going to just pick out and abbreviate some of them, because as you can see, this list is just mental. So we are going to take a look at some of the adjustments that they've got on there, and then we're going to move on to what they've got coming up next. Now, they've got Crystal Barrage, which is probably one of my favorite ones, and they've increased the cast speed and decreased the recovery time. We also have a lot of things such as the Renala's Full Moon. They've increased the cast speed and decreased recovery time. Now, Renala's Full Moon is actually quite a large casting speed anyway, as far as I know. But it's neither here nor there. That's just what we've got to deal with. We've got Magma Shot, which decreased the FP cost and increased the cast speed. And we can see a lot of these sort of increasing cast speeds and decrease in recovery time quite a lot across this. There's some of the decreases in FP costs across a lot of these as well, which I don't actually know if all of this is a good thing when it comes to the actual change for mages. From what I was told, it was a relatively good change for mages. It seems to be a very negative move, if you want my honest opinion. Everything seems to have a increased casting speed, which is not ideal, to be completely honest, because a lot of these things, like Elden Stars, has got quite a large casting speed anyway, so it's a bit of a frustration, although we do have a lot of positive notes, such as the decreased stamina consumption and the decreased recovery time for Black Blade, which is a bit of an interesting one when it comes to the recovery time period anyway. But we have got a lot of things in here, which is mad. So we're just quickly having a quick look through to see if there is anything that is really like a massive like increase. You've got O-Flame, which has got an increase at damage. Loads of the O-Flames have got increased damage, which is actually going to be quite interesting to see how that affects any mage builds in the future. There is absolutely ridiculous amounts, but the upward and downward adjustments. Duelist Moonblade decreased the power of single cast and improved performance so that the blades and frost hit more consistently and continuously. Increased cast speed at lower dexterity. Now that I don't mind. I like it when they do stuff like this. So if you've got lower dexterity, it'll increase the cast speed, which is good. That's the sort of stuff that you want to see, that right there. When they're just increased in cast periods, it doesn't really make much sense, considering actually it's not that broken when it comes to the casting speed of most of these incantations and sorceries, so it's a little bit frustrating. We've also got Flame Fall Upon Them. They've decreased the damage of single cast and improved the performance so that it hits the enemy multiple times and decreased the FP cost. And we have also got Howl of the Shabribri, I think I pronounced that right, and they've decreased the madness build-up on the enemy, increased cast speed, and decreased recovery time. Now, there is some interesting ones here. This is going to lead for a very interesting conversation, and I may even approach a lot of this in a separate video where we test them all out. But Swarm of Flies, they've decreased the blood loss build-up on enemies, which is frustrating because we know that blood build-ups are quite prevalent at the moment. There is a massive move with them, and the Swarm of Flies is pretty much your number one go-to blood loss build-up sort of incantation when it comes to the move for this. So the fact that they've decreased the blood loss on this, I'm not sure how many people are going to use this anymore. They've also got the Flame of Frenzy. They've decreased madness build-up on enemies, and Frenzied Burst, they've decreased the madness build-up on enemies again. So the whole madness process I think they've seen is a little bit of a madness. To be fair, it's completely mental how much that works. So they've completely hammered in on the madness. So I'm not too sure you'll see that going around too much just at the minute. And we've also got a load of weapon skills that have also been pushed up as well. Some of the ones that we quite enjoy utilizing, like the Carrying Greatsword, they've increased the cast speed and decreased recovery time, increased the damage when charged, and made it easier to cause enemies to flinch. But when they've obviously increased the casting speed, it'll be interesting to see how long they've increased it for. This is the one thing that annoys me with Elden Ring when it comes to the patch notes, is that they haven't actually spoke about how long they're increasing this by. We're going to have to do a lot of this sort of stuff ourselves. Now, that's kind of frustrating, but there are other ones which I really do enjoy, like such as the Black Flame Tornado, and they've added a hitbox to weapon when spinning and added a window to roll during the attack to cancel the animation. That is kind of interesting actually, and we don't have many of these animation cancels when it comes to a lot of these Ashes of War and stuff like that, so that will lead for some very interesting movements. When we go a little bit further down, we've got like the Ice Spear. They've added a hitbox to the weapon spinning animation. Again, that was very much needed, I think. And there is loads. I can't actually believe how much is here right now. They've made so many differences on this. The Moonlight Greatsword, they've decreased the FP cost and increased cast speed and decreased recovery time, increased the frost build-up effect during the skill duration. Now, when you start seeing things like this is where the builds are going to start coming in. So the increase in frost build-up, that's the sort of thing which is going to make a massive difference for a lot of these things. Frost has always been quite a prevalent effect, and it's an affinity that a lot of people really like to use. This is going to cause for some interesting builds, to say the least, over maybe the next week or two. But as you can see, there is just so damn much. As I said, this is very a broad move when it comes to reading all these out and going through a lot of these, so the main link is down in the description, because if I was to do this, you would end up with like a 40-minute video if we broke absolutely everything down, and I'm not just here just to spit out crap for the sake of spitting out crap. They've also got the Magma Guillotine, where they've decreased the stamina cost, increased the cast speed, and decreased recovery time on follow-up input, which is good. I like the fact that they're decreasing time on the follow-up input. I think that's definitely necessary for a lot of things, to be completely fair with you guys. A lot of these are just decreased in staminas, just seems to be a lot. Decreased in recovery times, increases in recovery times, a decrease in FP costs. It just seems like the numbers generally have gone quite up and down for how much things are going to cost you to utilize, and how the time effectiveness is going to be when casting a lot of these or utilizing a lot of these Ashes of War. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens with this, but we'll have to see how it affects the game. I think there's a lot of variations in the numbers, and I don't know how that's going to cause effect for a lot of mages and or Ash of War lovers. They've got the upward and downward adjustments, so the Thundercloud form, they've decreased the damage when not charged and decreased the FP cost, increased cast speed, and decreased recovery time. Okay, that's a neither here nor there, but this one is a very interesting one. So there is a ginormous list of bug changes right here, and we're going to break these down. So they fixed a bug where the damage of Inescapable Frenzy was affected by the right hand. That's frustrating. That is frustrating. We were all quite like utilizing that a fair bit, but that's neither here nor there. They've fixed a bug where the damage of the weapon arts Carrion Retaliation was increased by weapon and status, and the effect was not displayed correctly during online multiplayer, which I didn't know was a thing. They've also fixed a bug where the animation when inflicted with blood loss and frostbite was bigger than originally planned. That's quite interesting. I didn't think the animation with that was much of an issue really for me personally, but it's cool that that's now changed as well. They fixed a bug during a character appearance change menu, and they've also fixed a bug that prevent a dialogue from appearing when executing leave on some items. They fixed a bug that allows unauthorized items to be passed to other players. Now, this is a very, very huge thing, because this is something that has been spoke about quite a bit. There is a specific item, which I don't really want to go too much into, but there is a specific item that has been surfacing around the internet right now, and this is quite a problem. It seems to be a bit of a bikini looking thing, so if you see anything like that, do not obtain it, because apparently it is causing for some style of bans. So you want to be very careful with that, because it's not actually meant to be in the game, that's not meant to be utilized, and people are being banned from playing due to that, because it means that they're obtaining these things unintentionally, then rather than actually just playing the game the way that it's meant to be played, they're getting it via third parties. So please be careful what it is that you're being given. They've also fixed a bug in multiplayer that prevented Grace to be registered on a map if it was found just before the player is summoned. They fixed a bug that sometime prevented the mechanic of Renala, Queen of the Full Moon fight, from working properly during cooperative multiplayer. Again, I didn't know that either. That's an interesting one. I never knew anything about that at all. Actually, if you guys have been affected by that, let me know in the comment section, because that seems like that's something that should have been fixed a while back. They fixed a bug that sometimes would prevent the player from entering the boss area after defeating Morgoth the Omen King. We knew quite a lot about that one. There is quite a lot of NPC adjustments there. They fixed a bug that sometimes prevented the player from obtaining the reward after defeating the Dung Eater, which that's annoying to say the least. So they fixed a bug that sometimes prevented the player from progressing the Alos questline. A lot of questline issues. Prevented players from duplicating Remembrance of the Walking Mausoleum. That's actually frustrating as hell. Why the hell was that a thing? That again, some of these things that should have been fixed quite some time ago. Another blood loss one here. Now they fixed a bug that causes Scythe to lose blood loss effect if poison affinity is applied to the weapon. And they fixed a bug where the damage of the Iron Greatsword was lower than expected when an affinity is applied. So again, if they've buffed that back up now, the Iron Greatsword was relatively amazing anyway, so there's going to be a lot of movements on that. They've got some additions just for PC alone when it comes to the keyboard functionalities. They've increased online multiplayer stability, which doesn't make a difference for me. PvP's bloody broken. They're all messing around with AFK farms, so that's just knackered now anyway. They fixed a bug that caused incorrect sounds to be played under certain circumstances, and some places on the map have been incorrect visual and hitbox. They fixed a bug that causes some enemies to have incorrect visual and behaviors, and some armor to have incorrect stats. Incorrect stats? That's interesting. Again, they don't go into very much detail in this, and this is what bugs me. Like, what armor had the wrong stats? What armor had the wrong stats? That annoys me, because we don't know the numbers already for the FP changes, for the recovery changes. Now we don't know what the stats differences are on some of these armors. That's just annoying. But they've also changed some of the other improvements for performance in the bug fixes, and the text fixed for some of these things as well. Now, obviously, you guys need to make sure that you process this through properly. Make sure you get your update done so that you guys can actually play the game to the most applicable level that you can do. We are going to leave that there because this is a 15-minute video. It's quite a long one. If you guys want to go and check out the rest of the details on this, because there is a lot and I highly recommend it, go down to the description, go and check it out. This is huge. I don't normally do videos like this where we go through it like brick by brick without any gameplay. If you guys like this, please let me know via the comment section below. It'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks again for watching, guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, appreciate your faces, and as always, I'll see you in the clouds.